Hello, I am Malcolm McCauley, physical therapist in Duluth, Minnesota, developer of the LightSpeed Lift bodyweight support system. We're here today with tips and tricks on using the LightSpeed system to improve your performance. And I'm excited today because we've got a special guest with us, Paige Stradiotti, who I've known since she was probably about 5 years old, watched her come up through the ranks, win the 400 meter in high school, have a great college career, but now, even more importantly, now she's using her skills and tips and tricks to help young athletes develop their own speed, and with that speed bringing on confidence. So I look forward to you folks learning from this interview with Paige. Well, I'm super excited this week to have Paige Stradiotti to talk about her experiences using bodyweight support and specifically the LightSpeed Lift system. Paige and I go way back. She probably has different memories of it than I do. I have all smiles. She might have some...
We go way back. Diapers way back, pretty much.
She might have some fears in her head about some of those things. But, you know, starting off from... I just remember hearing from your dad about his maybe 5th or 6th grade daughter who was starting to do pretty doggone well in some of the city track meets. And I'm going, yeah, this is that parent thing. Even though your genes are pretty good.
I lucked out with the genetics. I did a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, your dad was, in his day, had the top times in like the 100, 200, 400, 800.
Yeah, all of it, all
maybe
the things.
mile, you know, he's a 220-something marathoner. And
403 miler. Shout out to Tim. He'd be upset if I didn't throw that in there.
No. And then her mom is the legendary single name, Anna.
I'm just Anna's daughter, really. That's what we've been known forever, too.
Right, yeah. Right. And now they own AP Training in Duluth, which is a premier fitness training spot, working with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I mainly work with athletes, local athletes, more specifically with speed goals. So that's kind of what I'm narrowed on. And Anna works with probably adults transitioning, trying to figure out life and find a balance between working out and fitness and health. That's a great term. Transition. I like that. Yeah. That transitioning term is perfect. I know. She'll force you right into where you need to be.
Yeah. So going back, I just remember, I think seeing you first off as a client or friend of Tim and Anna's, going, you know, they had you running some distance stuff, and you had a little bit of side ache problems, and you're on the treadmill, and we're trying to figure this thing out, and it's like, just looked awkward.
I was awkward. That's important to note. Like 7th grade Paige was there was a lot of limbs happening. A lot of everything was and my extremities grew, and nothing else really grew at the time. So yeah, I was a little bit awkward. And so my dad just pawned me off, and he was like, fix her.
Fix her, fix her.
But yeah, it was more distance, trying out the mile. When you have parents that ran distance, it's like you just end up doing that. You never like decided that. You just end up doing track and field and cross country. So yeah. Good
thing you listened. And then I just remember one time seeing her, it was in kind of like a boot camp thing, and you were sprinting off the wall with a group of young boys, and you just dusted them. And that looked like it made you joyous.
Yeah. Always has made me joyous.
And I remember going to your either mom or dad and said, you know what, she's a sprinter.
I know, and I was like, thank you.
She's done.
Thank you. So,
and so in those days we were just starting out with LightSpeed. It looked quite a bit different than it does now.
Yeah.
But putting her up in there and starting to see some of the gangliness go away when you got in there, especially when you got to run in the Jesus treadmill.
Yes. Have you talked about the Jesus
treadmill?
We
have not talked about the Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Does anyone know about Jesus? No, no one probably knows about Jesus treadmill. Malcolm, it was like this original treadmill from like 1000 BC, pretty much, that you calibrated. It was like double, so if the treadmill was going 4 miles an hour, it was probably going 9. And my brain at that age, I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And it was in the corner of your spot at the time, so he would just program me a workout and leave me in the corner. And I'd be like, when is he coming back? But yeah, that went up to like 22 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you'd put a mirror right in front of me, in front of the treadmill. So I'm like, very humbling experience all around. So.
We were trying to control an arm swing that never did prove to be very controllable.
Lots of focus, you know.
Right.
One side of my body knew what to do, and the other side was like trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So, but you did help with that a lot, especially the mirror. When you're faced with it, and you have to accept it for what it is.
You have to accept what it is, yeah. So eventually, you know, you kind of replicated your dad's stuff. You were top in the 100, the 200, the 400. You never ran the 800 in high school, did you?
No. My dad said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So.
Right. And ended up winning the state title in the 400 your senior year.
Yeah.
And then on to the University of North Dakota State University. I went to University of North Dakota.
Yes.
So North Dakota State was close there.
Yeah.
And how was that?
I just felt, I remember when I was about a sophomore in high school thinking like, I could actually go somewhere with this. And I thought that was, you know, kind of an epiphany for me at the time. And the coach there at the time, Ryan Godfrey, he started recruiting me when I was a junior. And my dad's like, well, no offense, you know, at the time I was good and I had qualified for state, but it wasn't like I was top of the field in the state. And he said, why Paige? And Ryan said, because she's raw, like she's underdeveloped and, you know, she's going to grow and get better. And he was right. He's a very smart man. He's right a lot of the time. So I just felt it was kind of a dream come true, you know, for my senior year to play out the way it did. And most of the training, I mean, here in Duluth, if you're trying to get speed work done, you're either driving to a college to get that done, or you're finding out who Malcolm McCauley is, and they're like, get me on that LightSpeed. So that was a huge part of my training for 6 months leading up. And I credit that to carrying me through the season and staying healthy. And I wasn't a runner like you mentioned when I was pretty young that handles mileage super well. So quality was always and has been a part of my training program, like over quantity, always. So, and I think just the greatest thing with LightSpeed and with being a youth athlete is you have to figure out how to push yourself and like redline, especially with track and field, and that's a hard thing to do, and you feel kind of safe doing it because you're like, I can't fall out. Okay, so if something bad happens, I'm not gonna fall off of the treadmill. But it also, you're kind of forced to just dig deep and find out what you're made of, and that was a big part of taking that next step for me too. And then transitioning to college and just preparing for that workload and like the type of intensity it requires it made that transition easier for me, even though college is, you know, the next jump, but I felt a lot more prepared than I would have for some of those workouts you put me through.
You were ready. Wow, the workouts your dad lined up for you too, leading up to that 400, and then I think all the college coaches that realized after that performance at state that they'd blown it because they hadn't recruited you to go along, and then so North Dakota State, then Kansas State, and then an injury or two.
You know, and especially looking back, hindsight's always 20/20. I think I had gotten very lucky for a long time. Like I was able to progress every single year. And so my first setback was a plantar fascia partial tear. It was about a 6-week issue, and that was right when I got to Kansas State. And then the next one was bad. The next one was a full peroneal longus tear in the ankle. So that's like your ankle joint is where everything runs through there, and I had just blown it. So it was my right leg. I mean, when you run in a circle for a decade and a half, you're like,
outside foot, they're just a little bit of torque,
and I had been running cross country, just more mileage, so I feel like it happened because of a little bit of wear and tear and overuse, and could it have been avoided? I'm not sure. You can't really live in that space as an athlete, like woulda, coulda, shoulda. But coming back from that was tough, especially with even when I could come home, and I spent a lot of time with you that summer.
Right.
Figuring my gait out again was really hard because you've got this new stiffness in your ankle that isn't allowing me to like produce the force I could before. So I was kind of like a dead foot, so it helped. LightSpeed was huge for lessening the impact of trying to get back to running fast, because that was the toughest jump I had to try and make again because it was different. So.
Well, it's kind of scary. I mean, your foot goes, wait a minute, this got me hurt before. And unfortunately, we couldn't talk Kansas State into having LightSpeed for that program there.
Right.
I think that would have made a nice difference.
Yeah, they had an underwater treadmill, which was good, and like an Ultra G, but I think that the LightSpeed gives you that more, like you have to, it's not lifting you from underneath, you're lifting from like your center of mass mostly, or like above, so you have to still teach your body how to run hard and run fast and push into the ground, which is huge.
So that was a while ago now. You've been out and about now for what, 7-8 years now?
Oh my God.
Are you 30 yet?
I'm 29.
Okay. 20. Just checking.
No, I'm kidding. I'm super retired. I run for fun now, which is actually really fun. I've done the Grandma's Half Marathon twice, and that was a very humbling experience. I can't imagine finishing the half and going halfway and running up. I'm like, people that do that, that's a different level for me. So now I just enjoy helping other athletes find their way to the next level, which I think is, I was just a kid that never thought that was going to be, I don't know, an opportunity for me, and just showing them that it is a super opportunity and just takes a lot of work invested into it. So I always thought, like, when I was done with my career, it was like, I don't know if I'm going to find something that makes me feel this passionate again, but this is better. It's like, it's so much better to be on the other side. I think it's always been where I'm supposed to be, so it's special.
Well, you're following some pretty illustrious footsteps. Your mom has got more hours in the gym than anybody. She's driven more sweat beads out of the population.
Including me,
It's perfect. And you were really the one that started years back. I knew this curved treadmill approach could be great. And when your clinic bought this, and then we got a LightSpeed down over it and started seeing some of the results with the athletes. Yeah. You're talking, we talked earlier, you're talking especially, some sprinters, some young female athletes that are trying to figure out that whole gangliness as they develop. What kind of things are you seeing there?
So the range that you can use this combo with is awesome, and there wasn't a lot of logic behind it for me. I was just like, I'm just going to try this. Let's throw this LightSpeed on here. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to make any sense, but it actually worked. I mean, thankfully, it worked out for me. It makes me look way smarter than I am. But it's been huge. I mean, first I started with kind of my top athletes, my faster athletes that just, we had to get some speed under their belt before their season came up for track and field or hockey or whatever that may be. But the biggest improvements I've seen are with like my 6th, 7th, 8th grade age girls, which is like, that was me at one point. And they're too scared to really try and push and run hard. That's kind of the first step you overcome. They're terrified of the curve because it looks like a hamster wheel. And so putting them in the LightSpeed makes them feel safe, number one, and they can't fall out, number two. I think that's huge for them, and it just helps me dial in on what we need to work on and fix. And so lots of video and lots of, it's just simple cues most of the time that they don't really know what to think about. And the more that you run fast, the more your body gets good at running fast. So I think that's been super important, especially with the curve, because they have to make the belt move for them. The LightSpeed assists them with, it lessens the impact, and of course that's huge and great for preventing injuries when we're trying to get young kids to run fast. But the mechanics that they're learning are going to translate to off of the treadmill too, and in their sport.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I see is that when they feel safe and We're not advertising the curved treadmills here. There's 3 or 4 different models on the market
Right.
that I think are great, but the
Yeah.
concept of it is really revolutionary, and I
Yeah.
think in the next 5 years we're going to see an explosion of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's of course climate friendly too. There's no electricity.
Yes.
We could probably power some things off of that.
Right.
We took the bars off of this one so that
No, I love that.
we could even do some video work with that, so they could see their foot strike a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I think video is
huge.
humbling, but it's really a powerful tool to be able to shoot with the iPhones and
Yeah.
then home with it. Or
And just getting them used to like critiquing and being
Mhm.
coachable too. When you have to watch yourself on video, of course it's a little uncomfortable because I'm telling them we need to fix these things. But the more you also do that, the more coachable the kid becomes, and
Yeah.
like accepting of just constructive criticism, and that's huge too when you're an
Okay.
athlete, a young athlete too, especially like a young female athlete. So my favorite thing about this though, that you see a lot with young kids, is they overstride and want to heel strike, and you can't do that on here really.
Right.
You'd have to
Yeah.
try really hard to reach
Mhm.
too far out. So that's the biggest thing with their mechanics, and the more that we just
okay.
get that pattern in there, they get better at it.
Well, it's going to be fun to see how those athletes do this
Yeah.
spring season
I
coming
know.
up.
I'm excited.
You know, they've had a head start coming through the winter time. You know, from the time you started, when women athletes weren't barely doing any weights at all, and now the strength work that you're doing
Yeah.
with them, and it's normalized now. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of powerful, confident young women out there, and it's
Oh yeah,
it's fun
that's
to
my
watch.
and any young kids. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
They just start to walk a little different. They're more
Okay.
confident. When you find out what you're capable of and how far you can push yourself, I think the confidence that comes with that is immeasurable, because there aren't a lot of things in life that you get that reward from anymore. So I think that's my favorite thing for sure. For sure.
Well, it's good to see that smile.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a little look at you running on the treadmill. Just so we can you know, I as someone who really likes movement and grace, and whether it's dance or diving or tennis, but the beauty of somebody that runs well is really fun
Thank you.
to see. So we're gonna show that on the curve here in just a second. But
Awesome.
I wanna thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
It's great to see you again. I get to see you grow that whole business. It's fun to see the twinkle in your eye when you talk about doing something that you love doing with athletes.
Yeah.
And keep on growing it down there. Duluth is gonna be continuing their tradition of putting out really solid athletes.
Yeah, that's right.
And good people.
You're basically my godfather at this point. So, you know, anytime you want me back.
Well, that's great. I'm honored.
All right.
I gotta reach up.
I know.
Thanks. So what we get to see at this point in time is how easy and free her mechanics can be. She's unobstructed by the bars. She's unobstructed by the cords on the LightSpeed system. And in fact, we found that those cords guide your arm motion. We get to critique her on proper heel lift, proper foot position, and she gets to really feel it and get a lot of repetitions with it. So having a system where the athlete feels comfortable, feels supported, they don't have to worry about falling off the system. All they have to do is try and run fast, and you can coach that right while she's doing it. Now, Paige has exceptional form. You can see her heel coming up under her glute and getting down to the ground really nicely. Multiple angles available. Great tool to have. Well, that's tips and tricks for today. I hope you learned from the interview and picked up some of Paige's enthusiasm. Remember to subscribe to our channel, follow us, and most importantly, really, send us comments. I'd like to know if these talks are helping your training or your use of a bodyweight support system. See you next week.